Hey guys, future me here. So I just finished up this video and I wanted to put a little warning in here. I'm sure you saw from the title of the video, Chili does make some statements in regards to how we should treat people who abuse children that did set me off a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Some of the things he said just absolutely infuriate me. So be forewarned, if this is a subject that is very sensitive to you, um, just it's in here. Maybe skip to the next one. But I didn't want you guys going in blindly. Otherwise, enjoy. All right, I really don't know if I am caffeinated enough to survive what I know Chili is about to say. Uh, Welcome back to my corner in the internet, guys. I am the Lucid Dream, and yeah, we are going to get another update from Mr. Chili Decastro in the Clark County Detention Center, most affectionately known as the Dungeon. Now, be prepared. Keep your expectations fairly low, because what we are about to hear is, from my understanding, an excerpt from Chili's as of yet unpublished manuscript. It will be an American masterpiece, I have no doubt, but as of right now, this has not been seen by an editor, a publisher. They have not had a chance to read it, make comments, or, as I assume, what is actually going to happen, throw it in the fires of Mount Doom and call it a day. So, let's go ahead and get into it. I have listened to a couple of minutes of this so far, and I had to stop. I had to go audit my espresso machine and fortify myself. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Hello, everybody. This is Chili Decastro calling from the Clark County Detention Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm an innocent man who has been locked up for filming a cop in the streets.
We're not even 20 seconds in, and I'm already annoyed. Chili, no matter how many times you repeat yourself over and over and over and over and over again ad nauseum, you will never be correct. You were not arrested for filming the police. You were arrested because you are a douchebag who thinks he can do whatever he wants. And that's it. Okay, back to my coffee. Let's continue.
So I wrote something today as I have a lot of time to think, and this is going to go in my book. So this is an excerpt of my book that'll be coming out when I get out of jail. I'm going to read it, and there's some things I'm going to say in here that is going to give you an insight to my thinking and why I am the way I am. As I lay down and I think about what went wrong, how could this judge put a first-time offender in jail on an obstruction charge? And I can't believe that I have deserved being put in jail. And yes, I may have said that I hate police, and there's a lot of reasons why I have said that, and there's a lot of reasons why I do. But I thought it was my right to say the things that I said. And so what this book is going to do is help give you comprehension and understanding as why I am the way I am. And so I want to put it into a perspective for you that you can understand. So let me say, for example, that you were going to get a job. Would you take a job where you take people as prisoner, where you put them in torture cuffs and take them to a cage? Who does that? An outright.
I wonder if Chili realizes there's a whole subculture of people all over the world, all over the country, that pay for the treatment he is describing in private clubs. Like, it makes me wonder if that's where his obsession with the word dungeon comes from. I mean, just my conspiracy theory, allegedly. Anywho, the Lifetime original movie music that he has got going on is absolutely killing me. I have a real hard time taking Chili seriously in the first place, but this is making it so much harder. I can already tell you, Chili, I don't need a book to understand why you are the way you are. You are the way you are because you think you can do and say whatever you want without consequences, because you suffer from a massive dose of victim complex. To you, the entire world is against Chili, and you see yourself as this shining warrior for justice, when in reality, You just don't want to accept that you are subject to the same laws that everyone else in this country is. You are not special in this way. All right, let's keep going.
An outright PIG. Now, I'm going to change my verbiage publicly because I must. But I'm not done yet building the comprehension of understanding myself for you to understand me. The goal of this book is so that you will always be able to say, I know why he called them PIGs. So I will change my verbiage. I have to. I have no choice to become electable. But because they sign up to do to us, to the public, only for themselves and completely for themselves. To me, the American cop is the most selfish, greedy person on earth, and I can prove it to you. If you had a job at a popular pizza place, and this pizza place sells pieces by the slice, and the front door that you worked at had a little turnstile, and every time someone came in, the turnstile would turn around and whack them in the hip or smack them in the back. It just didn't work. You know the 3 little bars like in the subway where you walk through it and it flips around? That thing. And so now imagine this. At your pizza joint, after the person pushes through and they get whacked, imagine you would say to them, it's not supposed to be comfortable. Could you even imagine it? Could you even, if they were to complain, whack, ow, 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 this is hurting me, how long would you keep this job? But yet you continue to hear it day after day, time after time, as people get hurt by police with the torture cuffs, them saying, ow, ow, ow. And the worst part of it, the absolute worst part of it, you go into the pizza joint and they stick you in a giant high chair where it sticks you in the ribs and it hurts your back and you're saying, I can't function, this hurts. How long would you keep that job? You wouldn't. Of course, this is a parallel. We're talking about the initial attack and the torture that these people called police in America put on us.
My brain actually hurts from listening to him try and make this connection. Chili, I'm going to speak to you like you're a toddler because honestly, that's what I think of you as right this second. You are comparing a semi-truck to a squishmallow. 2 objects that are so far from each other that there is no logical way you can make a connection. If you go into a pizza joint and you're going in there for your slice of pepperoni and their turnstile smacks you and they tell you, well, I don't give a shit. No, they're probably not going to be in business very long because as an American, you have the choice to walk your happy ass out of there and go to Pizza Hut. Very fucking simple. This is not rocket science. You comparing it to being arrested? You're reaching, dude. You're reaching. I don't know if you really think your followers are that stupid, and then maybe they are. But in a situation where you have broken the law or you're suspected of breaking the law and you're detained, you're put in handcuffs, your comfort is never going to be first and foremost in their mind, and it should not be. The security of the situation has to be to make sure that you can't escape. You can't hurt somebody else. You can't hurt yourself. I'm going to give you an example. That asshole that shot up the mall in Texas a couple of years ago, where we got the full in-color videos of the victims on the sidewalk. He unalived himself before the police were able to get to him. But if he had been arrested, do you think his comfort should have been taken into account with the handcuffs? Because I'm going to be completely honest. I don't give a shit about his comfort. 100%. I don't give a shit. And you cannot create a system where you have handcuffs for one kind of criminal and different handcuffs for another. It has to be equal. Fundamentally, one of the very building blocks that our country is based on is all men are treated equally under the law. It is not a perfect system, and it is never going to be a perfect system. But you cannot differentiate and say, you know what, this group of criminals gets the fuzzy handcuffs and this one doesn't, because that raises all kinds of other ethical and moral concerns. If you're worried about taking down corruption, you can't create more corruption because you want preferential treatment. You are a little bitch about handcuffs. I was arrested like 9 years ago because I forgot to pay a speeding ticket because I was a dumbass. And it was my fault. And I certainly didn't blame them because they put me in handcuffs and took me to jail because I had a warrant. It was my fucking fault. Are handcuffs comfortable? No, absolutely not. I remember sitting in the back of the police car, man, thinking, this sucks. I should have paid my speeding ticket. But it was my fault. So I didn't walk out of that police station and scream about the fact that, my wrists hurt from the handcuffs. I walked out of that police station, looked at my husband and said, yeah, I'm a dumbass. I forgot to pay my speeding ticket. But I'm an adult who can take accountability for my actions. I do find it hilarious, though, that you are planning on changing up your whole shtick so you can be eligible, quote unquote, for election, when isn't your whole thing based on the fact that you have freedom of speech and you can say and do whatever you want? But if that was true, why would you have to change in order to be electable? That doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. Let's continue.
And so if you worked at that place where you served pizza and they got whacked every time, you would demand to change, or you would say that they either have to change it or you're going to quit. But what does the PIG in the street say? He says they're not supposed to be comfortable. Torture cuffs are always torture. You cannot apply torture cuffs to a human being and then slip them into a tiny slot in the back of a cage and say that you're not torturing them. When you put them on industrial hardened plastic seats, we, the just, are better than the robber. We, the just, are better than the ravisher. We, the just, are better than the child abuser, the kidnapper, or the killer. Two wrongs don't make a right. And so, what kind of person uses a torture device, an outright mental anguish and fear, and puts it in the people? They're not supposed to be comfortable. Who says that? If cops are not PIGs, where's the decent person who says we can detain and transport people another way? What kind of person would sign up to chaining people's wrists behind their back? Answer that question. Imagine it. You're applying for a new job. It only requires that you chain people's wrists behind their back. Do you want the job? But yet, if you have no skill set and will pay you $6,000 to $10,000 a month, starting off, plus the $15,000 a month signing bonus, now you'll do it. If you want to see a job where you chain people up and you put them in a slot, then you fit perfect in here. Almost every time you put those torture cuffs on someone, you render them completely and utterly helpless. And you hear them say, ow, these hurt my wrist, these hurt my shoulders, this hurts my elbow. And the cop will reply, they're not supposed to be comfortable.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
For me, those are the worst people in our society, the worst people on earth. Let's go back to the pizza place with the turnstop. Now, as people complain and you say, quit, I'm going to quit if you don't fix this. Why are you going to quit? Because it's a $12 an hour job. Your humanity is not for sale for $12 an hour. And what would you say to people who were being hurt by the turnstop or the high chair? You'd call in a fixer, a maintenance man. You'd close the turnstop and say, come around another way. What would you not do? You would say, well, if you want pizza, you're going to have to get hurt. Now, the cops say it's not supposed to be comfortable. But what if we decide to pay you $40 an hour and then told you that you're above these people, that you're better than these people? And you're not just doing a job, you're doing a service. And now we're going to give you a military ranking that you never earned. See, there's a guy above you and there's a guy below you, and now you're a part of this bigger thing. You couldn't find a job with a dental plan and a vision plan. You couldn't find a job with an eye plan before. And the plan will cover every single person in your household, including your mom or your mother-in-law, as long as she lives in your house. What do you care if someone gets whacked or puts in the backseat of a car? You don't care. It doesn't affect you at all. You're important. You never get this kind of prestige and respect in your life. You used to drive a forklift. You used to work at Pet Boys changing oil in a pit. You used to be a truck driver alone for days and even weeks. Now other men salute you. You've got tons of buddies, and the money and the benefits are unbelievable. Look at your uniform. Look how important you are. Let's be honest. You're still the dork from the fourth row in history class. You're still, with a town bully or the town drunk, you still and always will be pathetic because you took a job where you torture and hurt people. You would never get to associate or hang out with the cool kids unless you were arresting them. And you've taken the bribe and the benefit and the racket. It's all about you. And then you say they're not supposed to be comfortable because you learned it from another dork who happens to be 60. And they're teaching the young dorks like you to be insensitive, cruel, and inhumane. For who? For themselves. That guy is not a cop for you to serve his community. If any of you cops wanted to actually serve any communities, there would be an outright rebellion and a mutiny about the torture cuffs. You cannot serve a community by serving them torture and fear every second of every single day, and then say it's in the name of your safety. Sorry, it just doesn't compute. Say it out loud. They're not supposed to be safe as you snort. These torture cuffs are for officer safety, but you're not an officer. Officer means duty, honor, respect, civility, service. Those are the 5 words I think of off the top of my head. And when you think of the word officer, duty, the duty to treat other human beings with compassion and dignity. Honor the others that you would want to be handled and how you would want to be treated. Humanity is respect. Civility is to treat people with the same civility that you'd want for yourself and for your brother. And service. Service is the needs of other people and the needs of the community. And here's what John Galt says in the book Atlas Shrugged. Man cannot survive except for by knowledge and reason. It's his only means to gain it. All thinking is a process of identification and integration. Reality, that which exists. The most depraved you can now utter is when you ask, whose reason? The answer is your reason. Your mind is your only judge of truth. Man's reason is his moral faculty. A process of constant change is the answer to the question. In the beginning, the question is this right or wrong? A rational moral process must take shape. Devotion to truth is the hallmark of morality. There is no greater, nobler, more heroic form of devotion than the act of a man who assumes the responsibility of thinking. Directly from Atlas Shrugged.
Wait. Okay, wait. Hold up. I mean, we've already established that you are the world's biggest bitch about handcuffs. I'm not even going to touch that one anymore. I'm so sick of listening to him bitch about handcuffs. But you're basing your entire argument, your entire moral compass on a fictional character. You are quoting someone who never existed. You are quoting John Galt from Atlas Shrugged, a fictional novel. Again, fictional. Someone who never lived, never existed, a figment of someone's imagination, and you're basing your entire argument on something that your imaginary friend said. I'm just making sure I heard that correctly, because I'm literally dying right now. Especially considering that at the end of Atlas Shrugged, they moved to strike to a capitalist society like we are. Atlas Shrugged took place in a dystopian universe, which we don't live in. Again, you are so delusional. Insane. Take your fucking probiotic.
You who have signed up to be the enforcer, to be the cop, have lost morality because you've decided to turn off your mind and to stop thinking. All critical thought has left your vessel, and it's been replaced by your selfish, self-centered looting and robbing, the people who pay your paychecks and all your benefits. You have lost yourself, and you are the robber of humanity. You will say that you were just following orders. It's the system, a system of weak, impotent men who have sold their souls to the state because you are not a man of ability and knowledge. You are not a producer. You have no product. You are the tyranny. You are the parasite that works deep within the meat of the pig. And here is why you are what you are. This comes directly from the book. That's what you call your soul or your spirit is your consciousness. And that what you call free will is the mind to think or not to think. Thinking is man's only basic virtue from which all others are processed. The act of blanking out, the willful suspension of one's conscience, the refusal to think, not blindness, the refusal to see, not ignorance, but the refusal to know. It is the act of unfocusing your mind and inducing an inner fog to escape the responsibility of judgment. On the unstated premise that a thing will not exist if only you refuse to identify it. Now, what does that mean? The cop on the street will say they're not supposed to be comfortable. You have abdicated all responsibility. You have turned off your mind, your humanity, and your morality. And not only torture another person, you have created and repeat catchphrases and mantras to absolve yourself of responsibility for your putrid behavior. With every generation, there are new, bright young humans who can and do see the world in new ways. Yet you chose to turn off your mind and simply say, I'm only doing as I'm told. And you accept the ways of despotism and slave chains via quips and jargons. You, the young, the new, are supposed to be brave, but yet you accept the status quo.
You have 1 minute left.
The torturous abuse you do to nonviolent persons who you do not care about and will never be a threat makes you a thug. You youngsters do not put your courage up and think to challenge the evil system which you joined for your own personal gain. You fear the loss and the gain of what you never earned and are not entitled to receive because you created nothing. You produced nothing, you earned nothing, but the quiet and open hatred that you receive from a daunted public, you are the worst of all persons America can get. And a lot of us openly despise you. And I call what I see exactly what I see. I call you dirty, I call you selfish, and I have called you a pig. Even though my words will change, that doesn't mean that my thoughts have changed. And now a little bit more from Atlas Shrugged, page 1018 to 1020. Non-thinking is an act of annihilation, a wish to negate existence, an attempt to wipe out reality.
I don't know what I find funnier. The fact he's sitting there reading directly from Atlas Shrugged, or chances are probably like the Cliffs Notes version of Atlas Shrugged. Or the fact he said negate. Negate. That's not a word. It's negate. And it kind of just confirms the fact that he doesn't truly comprehend or understand what he's actually reading. He is parroting the words he sees on the paper, but he doesn't actually know what the words are. But it's honestly the first thing you said, Chili, that I agree with you. Non-thought is 100% an annihilation. It is a break from reality, and it is exactly what you are doing. You are hyper-focusing on these things that are negligible in the fact that in the grand scheme of things, if you want to affect real change, this is not the way to do it. You know, reality is you have to take accountability for your actions, which you refuse to do. So you are going to shift all of your focus onto what you feel is injustice without ever actually making a difference in life. I mean, you are absolutely useless. But beyond that, you know, we've already established that they're not torture cuffs. I have worn them. And yes, while I understand that I have bigger balls than you do, I made it out just fine with no issues. If I can do it, why can't you? Just curious.
By refusing to say it is, you are refusing to say I am. By suspending your judgment, you are negating your person. When a man
negating. He learned a new word, now he's going to keep using it.
When a man declares, who am I to know? He's declaring, who am I to live? Thinking in every hour and every issue is your basic moral choice. Man's only moral commitment is, thou shalt think. Ayn Rand.
Man, Chili's lack of probiotic is hitting him kind of hard right now. I think he's trying to paraphrase Tolstoy here, but without context and knowing he absolutely does not know what he's talking about, I'm not going to get into it. But what is actually somewhat offensive here is he's saying that man's obligation, only moral obligation, is thought. And that is 100% incorrect. And the reason being is there are many, many, many different kinds of thought. People can think it's a good idea to break the law. People can think they are right when they are wrong. There is a lot more to thought than just thinking. Chile, once again, is positioning himself as this wise scholar without even really understanding what he's talking about. But the problem is he knows his followers are stupid enough that they're going to think he sounds smart when he's saying this. But at the end of the day, without rational thinking, without critical thinking, without honestly, without being able to differentiate between right and wrong, thought is not going to get you. It's not going to get you very far. You thought it was a good idea to come on the internet and say negate. I think you're an idiot.
The reason why that the police can't get people to sign up is because you, the new, the old, and the young cops can and do not think through what you are doing. That's why you can't get people to sign up. People are seeing your policies, procedures, and protocols, and they are withdrawing from your oppression. We, the overwhelming majority, refuse to surrender to a despotistic state. Yes, of course, will some still choose? Yes, they will. But we now know that with the majority of people who are in the presence of authority and being arrested, the majority of them, once on video and once a tracking device is attached to them, the overwhelming majority will easily surrender to authority. Yes, of course, some will still run away. Do they need to be chased? No. Can they get away in the digital era? No. So then why chase them? Because you were taught that we are prisoners and that we are your slaves. Once we are deemed a prisoner, there is no length that they will go to capture us and hurt us and abuse us and torture us. And as long as they have a slave catcher policy scribbled down on a piece of paper, and as long as they wear their medals and their stripes, and they consider themselves justified, they will backslap each other as they deem their elements and their demented actions perfectly moral. Yet they are not moral. Even the man who lays his hands on a child or the babe does not justify the action of the cop's response. It is not.
Oh, Mr. Dipshit, I think you might want to rethink that statement. Did you really just say that a man who puts his hands on a child doesn't deserve to be put into handcuffs because you think they're uncomfortable? That putting a man who puts his hands on a child in handcuffs is evil because you think it's uncomfortable. I am without words at the just absolute ignorance of that statement. I can promise you, and I am sure there are many, 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 many other people out there that feel this way. I have a 2-year-old grandson, and if anyone ever came near him, handcuffs would be the least of the man's worries. But ultimately, I would not care about his comfort when they were put on him. Just like I do not care about the comfort of the people who shoot up schools. I do not care of the comfort of the drunk drivers that kill families. I do not care about the comfort of people who pervert our Constitution and our laws for their own benefit. I don't care.
It is not as simple as two wrongs don't make a right. It's far deeper, oppressive, and evil. The man who lays his hands on a child or the babe will now encounter a series of twisted evil that will tarnish his soul and his humanity for the society he will re-enter. The abuser is not put down a garbage disposal, no. Instead of fixing him, he will be abused for a much longer and deeper level of the abuse that he has done. He will come out of the torture chamber with less morality and more pain and more reasons to abuse a society that not only sanctioned but paid for his abuse. And what about the men who came in with their sirens and their lights blazing? What about the men who beat and shackled the abuser from the start? The man who...
What about the child, you absolute fucking moron? Are you really going to sit here and defend child abusers and child molesters because you think you have your thumb on the heartbeat of the moral compass of society, and you know what should and should not take place within the arrest process? You are unbelievable.
The man who put on the torture cuffs just a little bit tighter because of the black eye that the abuser gave the child. What about him, that man? Surely he will improve as a person because what do we call them? They're heroes, right? Wrong. He is the bad man and he is the worst of them all. How and why? Explain it to me. I will explain it through the book again, Atlas Shrugged, page 1019. To live, a man must hold three things as supreme, ruling values of his life, and they are reason, purpose, and self-esteem. Reason as his only tool of knowledge, purpose as his choice of happiness, which the tool must process to achieve, self-esteem as his inviolate certainty in his mind he is competent to think in his person is worthy of happiness, which means he's worthy of living. These values imply and require all of men's virtues, and all of his virtues pertain to the relation of the existence and consciousness, rationality, independence, integrity, honesty, justice, productiveness, and pride. And this was written by Ayn Rand almost 100 years ago.
First of all, fuckwit, Atlas Shrugged was written in the 50s, certainly not 100 years ago. More so, you were once again quoting a fictional novel, but those are all virtues that none of which you possess. Certainly not integrity. Certainly not reason. Because you literally just said that we need to take into account the comfort of a child abuser because of a pair of handcuffs. Because you don't like them. Even though it's already been well established that normal people have no issue if they are arrested and they take accountability for their actions with wearing a pair of handcuffs, myself included. I had no fucking issue with them. So obviously, if I can live through that perfectly fine without being the world's biggest bitch about it, so can everybody else, and so can any other reasonable person. The fact you have stooped so low as to justify your position using child abusers is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Any ex-cop who's reading this just sat up in their bed and they just put their hands on their head and said, Eureka, that's why I'm unhappy. After 30 years of service, that's why I'm miserable. That's why you're miserable, exactly. Abusing the abuser did not build your character, create or feed your virtue. There's no productiveness in abusing another person, no matter what they have done. No matter how black that kid's eye is, there is no integrity in torturing the abuser. Justice will not and is not done by hurting the abuser of the boy. You, the man, who may feel some temporary satisfaction by doing it to the abuser, later in life, you'll be a bag of bones and a bag of scars. The kid.
How about this, Chili? How about you eat a bag of dicks because you are absolutely insane. Like, I think we are to the certifiable level at this point in time because you are so far gone when it comes to how you are trying to justify your reasoning. The very bottom line is, and I'm honestly, guys, I am getting very sick of listening to his voice right now. He is, the one thing you don't do or you don't talk about with me is defending people who abuse children. You are so far gone in your reasoning on what you feel like justifies your behavior because you absolutely will not hold yourself accountable, that you are resorting to defending child abusers. That police officer is going to be a detriment to his psyche because he put a pair of handcuffs on a person who abused a child. Do you realize how stupid that is? I mean, beyond stupid. No matter how many books you want to quote that you don't understand, that you have to read directly from them and you manage to mispronounce the words because you don't know what they mean, No matter how much you do that, it does not change the fact you are the stupidest human being on this planet. If you think that putting a pair of handcuffs on someone who abuses a child is going to damage that officer's psyche later on in life.
The kid got no justice. What does the kid want as far as justice? Fix the abuser. Not for you or for me, for the observer, for the kid. More likely than not, the kid loves the abuser. Justice would be not abusing the abuser, but the opposite, treating the abuser with empathy and inclusion. The exact opposite to what it's done. Fixing the kid's broken spirit. Regardless of whether or not the family can be glued back together, if the kid wants the glass glued back together, the cop doing what he does not make the cop virtuous or whole. What the cop does brings him 1,000 miles from virtue. The cop goes back out onto the street with nobody looking over his shoulder, with an anger and hatred for all of us in the world except for those who wear a badge, and will then repeat another mantra that we've heard so much more. Unless you've done the job, you just don't understand. Okay, Mr. Copper. Okay, whatever you think to turn off your mind and follow orders and hurt people, you're not building your own virtue. You did nothing to change the slave-catching system because you didn't want to ruin the loot that you grifted, unearned, and undeserving. You have no virtue because you traded them for favors that you didn't earn. You never questioned of the things that you have done and what that could be done differently because you're only worried about yourself, your loot, your profit, and what you could get as long as you just followed orders. Without question. Without question means without thinking. A man who does not question, does not think, and therefore has not purpose. A man without purpose is the most dangerous man in the world. If that man wants to know what he should think, he'll have to ask his boss. And that's what the cops are. That is why I called them PIGs for so long. I'll not say it anymore publicly. You'd have to read and become educated to the virtues of living to understand. Quote me out of context and I'll understand why. The big money interests of the system are on the line. They're in peril. Their livelihood depends on validating the need for torture cuffs and never-ending, never-ever-ending torture cuffs. Even considering shackle people with their arms behind their back and chains. The torture cuff companies are multi-billion-dollar companies. Enterprises. It's an officer safety issue. Who said? Well, that's what was said by the Supreme Court in 1967, with Earl Warren and Hugo Boss, both being white supremacists. And that's the system we live in now, that officer safety is more important than our rights, our freedom, our dignity, our standard of living. Could we change the torture cuffs? Absolutely. Could we go to a facial recognition system and an air tag that tracks people? Absolutely. But that would mean changing the multi-billion-dollar torture cuff system. There is no other way, they'll tell you. People have to be shackled like a slave from 1860. They're doing it around the world, don't you know? We can never change it. It's for officer safety. When Ann Zimmerman lashed out for me from behind the bench, she said, "You called the bailiff a pig," and then she put me in jail for 6 months. But I thought I was allowed to say whatever I wanted. I thought America had a First Amendment right to speech. I'll not say it anymore. I'll change the way I speak, only to become more electable. That doesn't mean that I've changed my thoughts. And that's just what I wrote so far. There's a little more, but I get into some other things.
Oh yeah, this manuscript absolutely needs to be thrown into the fires of Mount Doom. I am volunteering as tribute. I don't know if someone wants to come along and be Sam, but yeah, it needs to happen. Thank you so much for listening, guys. At the end of the day, Chili has freedom of speech. However, he doesn't understand that he doesn't have the ability to do and say whatever he wants, whenever he wants, just like none of us do. When he walked into that courtroom, he gave implicit consent that he was going to abide by the rules of the court and conduct himself with dignity, and he didn't. He decided to act like a child. He wasn't given the maximum sentence. Even for a first-time offender, he was not given the maximum sentence. She could have charged him with contempt of court. She didn't. He just wants to sit and whine because he's feeling sorry for himself. And he refuses to hold himself accountable because to him, he is the victim and the whole world is against Chili. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I know it was a little bit of a long one, but please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you would like to see. Otherwise, I am going to go. I'm going to go do anything but listen to Chili's voice for a little bit, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Have a good night.